I adjusted my simple navy blue maintenance uniform as I mopped the marble lobby of the Morrison Building, one of the most prestigious office towers in downtown Chicago. It was 7 p.m., and most of the executives had gone home for the day. But not my cousin Michael. He always worked late, making sure everyone saw his dedication as the youngest VP at Anderson Financial Group. He strode across my freshly mopped floor, designer shoes leaving scuff marks in his wake. "Still here, Olivia? Someone has to keep this place clean, I suppose." I kept mopping, hiding my smile. If only he knew that his entire company paid their rent to one of my holding corporations. "Evening, Michael. Working late again." "Some of us have real careers to build," he smirked, adjusting his Rolex, probably bought on credit. "Though I suppose cleaning floors is honest work." The irony was delicious. While Michael bragged about his VP salary, I had quietly built a real estate empire worth over $2 billion. The Morrison Building was just one of 12 properties I owned in the downtown area. But to my family, I was just poor Olivia, the college dropout who worked as a janitor. "Speaking of honest work," Michael continued, "you're coming to Mom's birthday dinner tomorrow, right? Dad's reserved the main dining room at La Cirque." "Ah yes, Uncle Peter's famous restaurant reservations." What my family didn't know was that I owned La Cirque through another of my companies. "I'll be there." "Great. Maybe dress up a little this time." It's embarrassing enough having a janitor in the family. I watched him leave, thinking about how tomorrow everything would change. Not by my choice, I was perfectly happy letting my family think I was a simple maintenance worker. But Anderson Financial Group, where Michael and half my cousins worked, was about to lose their lease. The whole company would be evicted unless they could negotiate with the building's mysterious owner. A owner who, until tomorrow's meeting, they knew only as O. Kingston, the reclusive real estate mogul who'd been buying up premium properties across Chicago. My phone buzzed. A message from my chief financial officer. Kingston Holdings board meeting confirmed for 9 a.m. Anderson Financial representatives will be there to beg for lease renewal. I texted back, "Make sure the conference room setup is perfect. Tomorrow will be interesting." Looking back, I never planned to keep my success secret for so long. It just happened naturally after years of my family's condescension. When I dropped out of college 10 years ago to work in real estate, they were horrified. "A property manager?" my mother had cried. "We sent you to Northwestern for this." What they didn't know was that I'd already made my first million by then, buying and flipping distressed properties while still in school. But their dismissal was so complete, so absolute, that I decided to let them believe what they wanted. I took the maintenance job as a cover, allowing me to monitor my properties while gathering intelligence about potential acquisitions. The uniform made me invisible. Executives discussed confidential deals in front of me, never thinking the person cleaning their office could understand, let alone use, that information. Over the years, I built Kingston Holdings into one of the largest private real estate companies in the Midwest. My family remained oblivious, even as they worked in my buildings, ate in my restaurants, and lived in my apartment complexes. Even funnier, they kept trying to help me. Every family gathering became an intervention. "I know an opening for a receptionist," my aunt would offer, her voice dripping with pity. "Michael could put in a word at Anderson Financial," my mother would suggest. "Even the mailroom would be better than this." I thanked them politely while calculating the millions in rent their companies paid me each month. Now, as I finished my maintenance rounds, I thought about tomorrow's meeting. Anderson Financial Group was in trouble. Their recent investment losses had made headlines. They needed their lease renewed at below-market rates to avoid downsizing. Michael had been boasting at family dinners about leading the negotiation team. "Don't worry," he'd announced last Sunday. "I've got a direct line to Kingston's board. They'll see reason." His direct line was actually my assistant, playing the role of a sympathetic secretary. Tomorrow, cousin Michael would finally meet the mysterious Oki Kingston face to face. I ended my shift at 10 p.m., leaving through the staff entrance. My Ferrari was parked 2 blocks away, hidden in a private garage. 20 minutes later, I walked into my penthouse apartment overlooking Lake Michigan. "Everything ready for tomorrow?" I asked my assistant, Diana, who was reviewing documents in my home office. "All set," she smiled. "The board will be there early. Anderson Financial's entire leadership team is confirmed, including Michael. They have no idea they're really coming to beg their own cousin for help." I poured myself a glass of wine, watching the city lights sparkle below. 10 years of them thinking I'm nothing but a janitor. 10 years of pitying looks and backhanded offers to help me find a real job. Are you sure you want to reveal everything? Diana asked. You seemed happy letting them believe the maintenance worker story. I thought about Michael's scuff marks on my lobby floor, about my aunt's condescending job offers, about every family dinner spent listening to them brag about their modest successes while treating me like someone to be pitied or fixed. It's time, I said finally. Not because I need their approval, I stopped wanting that years ago, but because sometimes people need to learn that success doesn't always wear designer suits or announce itself loudly. I picked up the Kingston Holdings Portfolio Review, a thick document detailing my $2 billion empire. Tomorrow, my family would learn that the cousin they dismissed had built something extraordinary right under their noses. Besides, I smiled. I want to see Michael's face when he realizes who he's been paying rent to all these years. My phone buzzed again. A text from Michael. Hey, since you work in the building, any inside info on this Kingston person? Need every advantage for tomorrow's meeting. I typed back, sorry, just a janitor. What would I know about important business meetings? Setting my phone down, I walked to my bedroom to choose tomorrow's outfit. The maintenance uniform was comfortable, but for this meeting, I needed something else. Something that would make the revelation even more dramatic. I selected a custom-made power suit that cost more than Michael's annual salary. Tomorrow, Oak Kingston would finally have a face. And what a shock it would be when my family realized that the person they'd been mocking all these years was actually one of the most powerful property owners in Chicago. The next morning, I arrived at the Morrison building through my private entrance, taking the executive elevator to the top floor. My board members, the few people who knew my true identity, were already gathering in the conference room. The Anderson financial team is in the lobby, Diana reported. Michael's wearing his lucky tie and practicing his pitch. I smiled, remembering all the times he'd walked past me with that same tie, never bothering to look me in the eye. Let's not keep them waiting. Time to show them who really runs this building. Through the one-way glass of my private office, I watched the Anderson financial team file into the conference room. Michael led the group, his confidence practically radiating as he arranged his presentation materials. Behind him came our Uncle Peter, now a senior VP, and two other executives I didn't recognize. Ms. Kingston. Diana appeared at my door. They're ready for you. I took one last look in the mirror, appreciating how different I looked from my maintenance uniform persona. The tailored Alexander McQueen suit and Louboutin heels were a far cry from my usual work clothes. My hair, usually pulled back in a simple ponytail, was now styled elegantly. Even my posture was different, no more of the deliberately submissive stance I'd adopted as a janitor. Let's give them a few more minutes, I smiled, watching Michael check his Rolex repeatedly. Sometimes a little anticipation is good for the soul. After exactly 7 minutes, long enough for Michael's confident smile to start wavering, I nodded to Diana. Time to meet the family, properly. I entered the conference room through the private door, enjoying the immediate shift in energy. Michael stood quickly, extending his hand. Miss Kingston, thank you for meeting with us. I'm Michael Anderson, VP of. His voice died as recognition slowly dawned. He stood frozen, hands still outstretched, mouth working silently. Olivia? Uncle Peter's voice was barely a whisper. I took my seat at the head of the table, enjoying their shocked expressions. Good morning, gentlemen. Shall we discuss your lease situation? This is some kind of joke, Michael stammered. You're a janitor. Actually, I smiled, sliding the Kingston Holdings portfolio across the table. I own this building, and the entire block, and about 11 other properties in downtown Chicago. Uncle Peter grabbed the portfolio with trembling hands, flipping through pages of assets, acquisitions, and property valuations. His face grew paler with each turn. $2 billion, he muttered. You're worth $2 billion? Give or take, I shrugged. The market's been good lately. Michael collapsed back into his chair, his lucky tie suddenly looking like it was choking him. But all these years, I finished for him. You've been working in my building, walking past me every day, leaving scuff marks on my floors, and never once bothering to look me in the eye. The other executives shifted uncomfortably, clearly sensing they were witnessing something beyond a normal business meeting. Now, I continued, opening a leather folder. About your lease renewal request. Your company's recent losses are concerning. The market rate for this space is triple what you're currently paying. Olivia. Michael found his voice, trying to sound authoritative despite his obvious shock. Surely we can work something out. We're family. I raised an eyebrow. Family? Like when you told everyone at Christmas dinner that I was an embarrassment to the Anderson name. Or when you offered to help me find a job in your mailroom. Uncle Peter leaned forward. We didn't know? Exactly. You didn't know because you never bothered to find out. You were too busy looking down on the maintenance worker to notice she was actually your landlord. I stood up, walking to the window that overlooked my property empire. Do you know why I kept up the janitor role all these years? It wasn't about hiding my success. It was about learning who people really are. You'd be amazed what executives will say and do in front of someone they think doesn't matter. Turning back to the table, I saw the realization hitting them. Every condescending remark, every dismissive gesture, every time they treated me as invisible had been noted by the very person who now held their company's fate in her hands. Please, Michael's voice had lost all its usual arrogance. Anderson Financial can't afford market rates right now. We'll have to lay off half our staff. I sat back down, pulling out another document. I have a counter-proposal. Kingston Holdings will extend your lease at current rates, with one condition. Anything, Uncle Peter said quickly. Michael steps down as VP, effective immediately. He'll be replaced by Sarah Chen from your accounting department. Michael shot to his feet. Sarah? She's just a junior analyst. Sarah, I corrected him, has submitted 12 proposals for improving company efficiency that you've ignored. She also treats maintenance staff like human beings. I've watched her thank them by name, help them clean up spills, and defend them when others are rude. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. All those years of watching, listening, learning while I cleaned their offices, I'd seen everything. You can't do this, Michael whispered. Actually, I can. As your landlord, major shareholder, and the person who's about to save your company from bankruptcy. I slid the agreement across the table. Your choice, gentlemen. Sign by the end of the day or start packing up your offices. They signed. Of course they signed. They had no choice. As they filed out, Michael lingered behind. Why? He asked, his voice small. Why let us treat you that way for so long if you had all this? I walked over to my private elevator, the one I'd never used while maintaining my cover. Because success isn't about proving others wrong, Michael. It's about proving yourself right. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go change. The lobby floor won't mop itself. His eyes widened. You're still going to? Of course, I smiled. I own 12 buildings, but this one's my favorite. Someone needs to make sure it's properly maintained, even if that someone is a billionaire in a janitor's uniform. The story spread quickly through the family. By dinner time, my phone was flooded with messages from relatives who'd suddenly remembered how much they'd always believed in me. My mother called 17 times, alternating between tears and demands for explanations. I let them all go to voicemail. Instead, I changed into my maintenance uniform and did my evening rounds. The familiar routine was soothing after the drama of the day. As I mopped the lobby, I saw my reflection in the marble floors. The secret billionaire playing janitor. But it wasn't an act, not really. This building, like all my properties, deserved proper care. And sometimes the best way to lead is from the ground up. A week later, Sarah Chen was installed as the new VP at Anderson Financial. Michael took a position at a smaller firm across town, in a building I didn't own. Uncle Peter started greeting maintenance staff by name. Funny how perspectives can change when the person holding the mop turns out to be the one holding the power. My family tried to arrange a celebratory dinner at La Cirque. I declined, suggesting instead that they help serve meals at the homeless shelter where I volunteered every month. Only my cousin Anna showed up. She was the only one who'd ever treated me kindly during my janitor years. Now she helps me manage my properties, proving that character matters more than status. These days, I still do maintenance rounds twice a week, not because I have to, but because it reminds me of an important truth. Real success isn't about titles or corner offices. It's about building something meaningful, treating people with dignity, and remembering that sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one nobody notices. Last month, a young woman joined our maintenance staff. I watched other executives walk past her, eyes averted, just as they used to ignore me. But I saw something in her. A spark, a quiet determination. So I gave her what no one except my grandfather had given me. A chance. She's now learning property management, shadowing Anna between her cleaning shifts. She doesn't know that her mentor is actually the owner of the building. But someday, when she's ready, I'll tell her my story. After all, sometimes the best way to clean up the world is from the bottom up, one floor at a time. The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Plaza Hotel ballroom cast a warm glow over my sister Victoria's engagement party. Everything was perfect, from the champagne fountains to the string quartet playing softly in the corner. Everything except my seat assignment, a wobbly chair next to the kitchen's swinging doors. "Sit by the kitchen, where you belong," Victoria had whispered, adjusting her designer dress. "We can't have you embarrassing Thomas in front of his colleagues." Thomas, her investment banker fiancé, was busy charming his way through the crowd of financial elites he'd invited. His boss, Jonathan Chin, CEO of Sterling Capital, was expected to arrive any minute. Victoria had spent weeks talking about how this party would cement Thomas's upcoming promotion. If only they knew that Sterling Capital's latest acquisition was sitting next to the kitchen, eating lukewarm hors d'oeuvres. Let me explain how I ended up here. 5 years ago, I was working as a junior analyst at a small investment firm. Victoria was already climbing the corporate ladder at one of Wall Street's top banks, making sure everyone knew about her success. "Not everyone can handle the pressure of high finance," she would say at family dinners, smirking as I picked at my food. "Some people are meant for simpler things." But while Victoria was chasing promotions and dating up the corporate ladder, I spotted an opportunity everyone else missed. A new type of financial technology that could revolutionize investment banking. I took every penny I had, my savings, my 401k, even my rent money, and started Quantum Financial Solutions. My family thought I was crazy. Another one of Sarah's impractical schemes, my mother had sighed. "When will you learn to be more like your sister?" Victoria, fresh from closing a minor deal at her bank, nodded wisely. "Not everyone has what it takes to succeed in this business, Mom. Sarah should stick to something less challenging." What they didn't know was that I had already secured seed funding from major venture capitalists. I had developed an AI-driven trading algorithm that could process market data 1,000 times faster than traditional methods. The first year was brutal. I worked 20-hour days, slept on an office couch, and lived on instant noodles. Victoria loved to point out my struggling startup at family gatherings, comparing it to her rising corporate career. Then everything changed. My algorithm caught patterns in the market that nobody else saw. We started making trades that yielded returns that seemed impossible. Word spread quietly through the financial world about a mysterious new firm with unprecedented success rates. I kept my involvement quiet, operating through shell companies and subsidiaries. To my family, I was still the failing sister who couldn't handle real finance. Meanwhile, Quantum Financial grew into a powerhouse, managing billions in assets and acquiring smaller firms at an aggressive pace. 2 months ago, we set our sights on Sterling Capital, Thomas's employer and one of the oldest investment banks in the city. Their outdated systems and bloated management structure made them the perfect target. Victoria had no idea that the mysterious company buying her fiance's firm was run by her unsuccessful sister. She was too busy planning her perfect engagement party, making sure to seat me far from her important guests. "Sarah," my mother's voice cut through my thoughts. "At least try to look presentable. Mr. Chen will be here soon." I glanced down at my cheap dress, actually a custom channel that cost more than Victoria's entire wardrobe. But they didn't need to know that. Yet. My phone buzzed quietly. A message from my COO, Sterling Capital Board just approved the acquisition. Document signed. You now own 51% of the company. I smiled, watching Thomas work the room, bragging about his upcoming promotion. In less than an hour, he would learn that his new boss was his future sister-in-law. The same one banned from sitting at the main tables. Victoria clinked her glass, gathering everyone's attention. "Thank you all for coming to celebrate our engagement, especially those who traveled so far." She glanced at my kitchen-side seat with a smirk. Though some didn't have to travel far at all, given their limited means. The crowd chuckled politely. I took another sip of champagne, checking my watch. Any minute now. The ballroom doors opened and Jonathan Chen walked in, followed by his executive team. The room immediately shifted, everyone turning to greet the CEO of Sterling Capital. Or rather, the former CEO. Victoria practically sprinted across the room, dragging Thomas with her. "Mr. Chen, we're so honored you could join us." I watched as she fawned over him, probably already planning how to leverage this connection for her own career. Thomas stood proudly by her side, likely thinking about his upcoming promotion. Then Chen saw me. His eyes widened in recognition. After all, we had just spent 2 months negotiating the acquisition of his company. He immediately started walking toward my secluded corner, ignoring Victoria's attempts to guide him to the main tables. "Ma'am," he bowed slightly as he reached my table. "I just received word. The acquisition is complete." The room went silent. The silence in the ballroom was deafening. Victoria stood frozen, her champagne glass tilted dangerously in her slack grip. Thomas's face had gone pale, his earlier confidence evaporating as he watched his boss bow to his unsuccessful future sister-in-law. "I don't understand," Victoria finally managed. "What acquisition?" Chen turned to her, confusion crossing his features. "The quantum financial acquisition of Sterling Capital, of course. Surely your sister told you? She's been brilliant during the negotiations." The champagne glass slipped from Victoria's fingers, shattering on the marble floor. "My sister." I stood up from my wobbly kitchen-side chair, smoothing my Chanel dress. "Thank you, Jonathan. I trust everything is in order." "Absolutely, Ms. Harrison. The board was particularly impressed with your plans for modernizing our trading systems. Your AI technology is years ahead of anything we've seen." Thomas stepped forward, his banker's mind finally catching up. "Quantum Financial, but that's the mysterious firm that's been buying up investment banks across the city. They manage billions in assets. 52 billion to be exact," I corrected him. "Though after today's acquisition, that number is closer to 70 billion. My mother grabbed the nearest chair for support. "Sarah, what is going on?" I smiled, addressing the now silent crowd of financial elites. 5 years ago, I started a small company based on an AI trading algorithm I developed. That company became Quantum Financial Solutions. Today, we completed our acquisition of Sterling Capital, making us one of the largest financial institutions in the country. Victoria found her voice, though it shook slightly. "This is impossible. You're just a failed startup founder. You work out of some tiny office." "Actually," Chen interrupted, "your sister's office occupies the top 5 floors of the Crystal Tower. The tiny office you're thinking of is just where she takes family meetings." I watched realization dawn across the room. The financial world's most talked about CEO, the mysterious founder of Quantum Financial, was the same person Victoria had banished to a seat by the kitchen. "Thomas," I turned to my future brother-in-law, "about that promotion you've been expecting. We'll need to discuss that on Monday. Quantum Financial has different standards for executive positions." He swayed slightly, probably realizing his career now depended on the sister-in-law he'd helped humiliate. Victoria stepped forward, her perfect makeup unable to hide her panic. "Sarah, I don't understand. Why didn't you tell us?" "Tell you?" I raised an eyebrow. "Would that be before or after you seated me by the kitchen?" "Before or after you mocked my limited means in front of your guests." "But we're family," she whispered. "Family?" I laughed softly. "Was I family when you told everyone I couldn't handle real finance? When you made sure I was hidden away at your perfect engagement party?" Chen cleared his throat. "Ms. Harrison, shall we discuss the integration timeline? The executive team is eager to begin implementing your AI systems." Of course, I nodded. "Though first, I believe my sister and her fiancé might need a moment to process the news that they now work for the person they seated by the kitchen." My phone buzzed. Another message from my CEO. "Press release about the acquisition is going live in 5 minutes. Your photo will be on every financial news site in the country." I turned back to Victoria, who stood amid the shards of her broken champagne glass. A fitting metaphor for her shattered illusions. "You might want to check your phone in a few minutes. I believe your unsuccessful sister is about to be trending on Wall Street." My mother stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Darling, we had no idea, all this time." "That's the point, Mom. You never bothered to look past your assumptions. You were too busy bragging about Victoria's minor accomplishments to notice I was building an empire. I gestured to Chen, and he immediately walked over. Would you mind announcing the leadership changes now? I think my family should hear it from you. He nodded, tapping his glass for attention. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce that effective immediately, I'll be stepping down as CEO of Sterling Capital. The company will operate as a division of Quantum Financial under the direct leadership of its founder and CEO, Sarah Harrison. The room erupted in murmurs. Victoria's carefully cultivated crowd of financial elites were suddenly looking at me with new eyes. Not as the embarrassing sister by the kitchen, but as one of the most powerful people in finance. Sarah, Thomas stepped forward, his voice nervous. About Monday, my promotion will be decided based on merit. I cut him off. Though I should warn you, Quantum Financial doesn't promote people based on who they're marrying. We prefer actual talent. Victoria grabbed his arm. This is our engagement party. You can't just take over your fiance's company. I finished for her. Actually, I can. And I did. Though I'm curious, will you still be telling everyone how I couldn't handle high finance? My phone buzzed again. The press release had gone live. Around the room, phones began pinging as the news spread. I watched as Victoria's guests pulled up their devices, their eyes widening as they saw my photo alongside headlines announcing the acquisition. If you'll excuse me, I said, gathering my things, I have a company to run. Jonathan, we'll meet tomorrow to discuss the restructuring. Thomas, HR will contact you about your new position, significantly lower than your current one. I'm afraid. We have strict qualification requirements. As I walked toward the door, Victoria called out, Wait, what about the wedding? We invited all these people. I turned back. I'll still be at the wedding. In fact, I smiled. I just bought this hotel. I think I'll seat you by the kitchen. That's where family belongs, right? The next morning, I sat in my real office, the entire top floor of the Crystal Tower, watching the financial news coverage of the acquisition. Victoria's engagement party debacle had become part of Wall Street legend overnight. The headlines were particularly enjoyable. Quantum Financial CEO reveals identity at sister's party. Wall Street's mystery woman was hidden in plain sight. Family drama meets high finance. The Sarah Harrison story. My assistant entered with the morning reports. Your sister and her fiancé are in the lobby, Ms. Harrison. They're insisting on seeing you. Send them up, I said, turning my chair to face the floor-to-ceiling windows. Let them see what success really looks like. Victoria and Thomas entered my office, their confidence from last night completely evaporated. The sight of my name on the CEO's door had probably driven home the reality of their situation. Sarah, Victoria started, about last night. I cut her off. I should thank you. Seating me by the kitchen provided the perfect opportunity for the dramatic revelation. The press loves that detail. We didn't know, Thomas said weakly. No, you didn't. You were too busy looking down on me to notice I climbed higher than either of you ever will. I turned to face them. Now, about your positions at Sterling Capital. Victoria stepped forward. We're family, Sarah. Surely that counts for something. Family. I pressed a button on my desk, and the wall screen displayed security footage from last night's party. Victoria's voice played clearly. Sit by the kitchen, where you belong. You made it very clear where family belongs, I said quietly. Now you get to experience it firsthand. Thomas, your new office is on the 3rd floor, next to the cafeteria. Victoria, I'm sure your bank will be thrilled to know you're engaged to a junior analyst. They left my office looking shell-shocked, probably still trying to process how completely their world had turned upside down. Later that day, I received a text from my mother. We were wrong about you. So very wrong. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent her a copy of next month's Forbes magazine, where I was on the cover. The headline read, Sarah Harrison, the kitchen table billionaire. I never thought my sister's wedding would be the day everything changed. Looking back, I should have known something was wrong when my invitation arrived 3 days before the ceremony. Kitchen staff entrance only, it read in elegant gold script with a crude arrow drawn pointing to the back of the venue. My sister Victoria had always been the golden child. While I chose to work with underprivileged children as a teacher, she climbed a corporate ladder with perfectly manicured nails and designer heels. Our parents never let me forget the difference between us. Why can't you be more like your sister? Mom would say, shaking her head at my simple clothes and practical shoes. Look at her, engaged to James Anderson, CEO of Anderson Industries. And what do you have to show for yourself? What they didn't know was that I had plenty to show, just not in ways they could understand. My small apartment might not be impressive, but the smiles of my students when they finally grasp a difficult concept, those are worth more than any luxury condo. Still, I went to the wedding. Victoria was my sister, after all, even as she'd grown more distant since getting engaged to James. I put on my best dress, not designer, but elegant in its simplicity, and drove my old Honda Civic to the Grand Plaza Hotel. The security guard at the main entrance took one look at my invitation and pointed to the back. "Service entrance only," he said gruffly. I found myself walking through the hotel's kitchen, dodging busy staff preparing for what was clearly going to be an extravagant reception. A hostess led me to a small table tucked behind a large pillar, practically hidden from the main celebration. Victoria's instructions were very clear, she said apologetically. Family members who might embarrass the couple should be kept out of sight. My hands trembled as I sat down. The table was set with plastic utensils, while I could see fine china gleaming on the other tables. A handwritten note in my sister's flowing script sat next to the plastic fork. "Know your place, little sister. Don't ruin this for me." I should have left then. Should have walked out and never looked back. But something made me stay. Perhaps the same stubborn determination that made me choose teaching over the corporate career my parents demanded. The ceremony was beautiful, of course. I watched from my hidden corner as Victoria floated down the aisle in a gown that probably cost more than my yearly salary. James Anderson waited at the altar, tall and distinguished in his custom tuxedo. He was handsome in that polished way that Grace magazine covers, but something about his expression seemed strained. Then he saw me. In that moment, as his eyes met mine across the crowded room, James Anderson, CEO of Anderson Industries, did something completely unexpected. He dropped his wedding ring. The small golden band made a distinct ping as it hit the marble floor and rolled, coming to rest right at my feet. As I bent to pick it up, memories from 15 years ago came flooding back. I was 19, working my way through college at a small coffee shop in Boston. He was 22, a regular customer who always ordered the same thing: black coffee, no sugar. Back then, he wasn't James Anderson, CEO. He was just Jamie, a graduate student with dreams of changing the world through ethical business practices. We'd spent 6 beautiful months together, sharing dreams and plans for the future. He wanted to revolutionize corporate responsibility. I wanted to teach. We talked about combining our passions somehow, maybe starting a foundation for education. Then he disappeared. No explanation, no goodbye. Just vanished from my life completely. I tried to find him, but it was like he never existed. A year later, I saw his photo in a business magazine. James Anderson, heir to Anderson Industries, engaged to a wealthy socialite. My heart broke all over again. Now here he was, staring at me like he'd seen a ghost, while my sister, his bride, watched in confusion. "Jamie," I whispered, holding out his wedding ring. The color drained from his face. Victoria's perfectly plucked eyebrows furrowed in confusion. "James, darling, do you know my pathetic little sister?" But James wasn't looking at his bride anymore. His eyes were fixed on my left hand, where I still wore the small silver ring he'd given me 15 years ago at that coffee shop in Boston. The one with the inscription, "To my Emma who taught me what really matters." "Emma," he breathed, and in that one word, I heard 15 years of regret. Victoria's voice turned sharp. "James, what's going on?" Before he could answer, a distinguished older man rose from the front row. Richard Anderson Sr., James's father and founder of Anderson Industries. His face was thunderous as he approached the altar. "Son," his voice carried across the suddenly silent room. "Please tell me this isn't the same Emma." The same Emma. The words hung in the air like storm clouds. What did he mean, the same Emma? James straightened his spine, and for a moment, I saw the Jamie I used to know, the one who wanted to change the world. "Yes, father," he said clearly. "This is Emma Chen, the woman you paid $5 million to disappear 15 years ago." The room erupted in chaos. Victoria's perfect wedding dissolved into chaos. Guests began whispering, phones recording everything. My sister's face had turned an interesting shade of red that clashed horribly with her white dress. $5 million? I stood up slowly, my teacher's salary suddenly feeling very different. You paid me to disappear? Richard Anderson Sr. straightened his expensive tie. I paid your mother. She assured me you'd never contact James again. Said you agreed it was for the best. My mother. Of course. The pieces started falling into place. Mom's sudden insistence that I transfer universities that year, the mysterious deposit in my college fund, her constant reminders that James, was out of my league. You knew? I turned to my mother, who was trying to disappear into her seat. You took money to separate us? It was for your own good. Mom stood, her designer dress rustling. Look at you, a teacher living in a tiny apartment. James needed someone who could understand his world. Victoria was perfect for him. Perfect. James laughed bitterly. Perfect for the company image, you mean? Just like that socialite you tried to set me up with after Emma left. Did you tell Victoria about that too, Father? How you've been orchestrating my relationships for 15 years? Victoria finally found her voice. James, darling, surely you're not comparing my worthless sister to me? I mean, look at her dress, it's not even designer. No, James said quietly, it's handmade. Emma always said the most valuable things are made with love, not money. He turned to me. You still make your own clothes. I nodded, throat tight. He remembered. This is ridiculous. Richard Anderson Sr. boomed. Son, you have responsibilities. The merger with Victoria's father's company. The merger? James's voice turned cold. Is that what this wedding is really about, Father? Another business deal? Victoria went pale. What do you mean, a business deal? Oh, didn't you know? James turned to her. Your father's company is failing. This marriage would save it. That's why he pushed so hard for you to date me, isn't it? Victoria's father jumped up. Now see here. But James wasn't finished. He reached into his tuxedo jacket and pulled out a USB drive. I found some interesting documents last week, Father, about what really happened 15 years ago, about the real reason you wanted Emma gone. Richard Anderson Sr.'s face turned ashen. James. Emma wasn't just my girlfriend back then, James continued, his voice carrying across the silent room. She was also volunteering at a youth center in South Boston, a youth center that was about to be demolished for one of our developments, a development that would have displaced hundreds of families. I remembered that fight. The community had been organizing protests, and I'd been helping them. James had been supportive, even talked about finding alternative locations for the development. Emma was organizing the community, James went on. She was good at it too, really good. The media was starting to pay attention. If that development had failed, it would have cost the company millions. But more importantly, it would have shown that Anderson Industries could be beaten. That's why she had to go, isn't it, Father? Richard Anderson Sr. collapsed into his chair. So you paid her mother to make her disappear. James's voice was ice. You destroyed evidence of our relationship. You even donated to her new university to ensure she'd be accepted for a transfer. Also perfectly arranged. I did what was necessary for the company, his father muttered. The company? James laughed. The company that's now mine? He turned to the shocked guests. Oh yes, as of last week, I'm the majority shareholder. Father signed over control as an early wedding gift. Ironic, isn't it? He walked over to me, ignoring Victoria's squeak of protest. Emma, he said softly, I spent 15 years thinking you'd abandoned me. 15 years trying to be the son my father wanted. Then last week, I found these documents and I finally understood. I was going to stop the wedding. But then I saw your name on the guest list. Seated in the kitchen, I added dryly. Of course, he smiled. Victoria always did have a flair for drama. He turned to my sister. The wedding's off, by the way. You might want to check your father's company's financials before he tries to arrange another merger. Victoria screamed, throwing her bouquet at us. It hit a champagne pyramid instead, sending crystal glasses crashing to the floor. As my first act as CEO, James announced over the chaos. Anderson Industries is establishing a $100 million foundation for educational initiatives in underserved communities. He looked at me. We need a director who understands both education and community organizing. Interested? My mother jumped up. Emma, darling, I always knew you had potential. Save it, I cut her off. I think you've done enough helping for one lifetime. I turned to James. The foundation job, does it come with a corner office? He grinned. Only if you'll have dinner with me first. I know this little coffee shop in Boston. You can't do this, Victoria shrieked. Daddy, do something. But her father was already rushing out, phone in hand, probably calling his accountant. Richard Anderson Sr. stood up shakily. Son, think about what you're doing. Oh, I have, father. For 15 years. James took my hand. The company's image could use some updating, don't you think? Less corporate greed, more social responsibility. Emma always said the measure of success isn't how much money you make, but how many lives you improve. My sister launched into another screaming fit, but I barely heard her. I was looking at the small silver ring I'd never taken off, remembering a young man in a coffee shop who wanted to change the world. You kept it, James said softly, touching the ring. You came back, I replied. 6 months later, the Anderson Chen Educational Foundation had already funded 50 community programs. Victoria eventually married a minor European prince, who, ironically, believed in socialist policies. My parents suddenly became very interested in charitable giving, though their invitations to family events mysteriously get lost in the mail. Richard Anderson Sr. retired to a villa in Italy, though he did send a surprisingly heartfelt letter of apology. I framed it next to the newspaper article about our foundation's launch. As for me and James, we still go to that coffee shop in Boston. He still orders black coffee, no sugar. But now when we talk about changing the world, we actually do it. The small silver ring finally has a companion. A simple gold band that matches it perfectly. The inscription, to my James, who came back to what really matters. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting it right.